Everyone, and welcome back to the Benchwarmers Podcast. In this week's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Kidderminster Harriers manager Russell Penn. Russ, how are you?
Yeah, good, Gabriel. It's good to speak to you, mate. I've heard a few podcasts in the past, and jumped at the chance to talk to you.
Yeah, well, we discussed it briefly before, but we've got a lot of topics to get through. But I think we'll start off, rather than starting at Kidderminster, we're going to start off from where it all began, all the way back in, I should have the year written down here, but back when you were at Birmingham in their youth academy. So what was it actually like playing in the youth academy of a very prestigious club like Birmingham?
I had an upbringing from probably when I was under 8, actually, playing for Aston Villa and Birmingham over a 10-year spell, all the way till I was under 16. And you get lots of pros, lots of cons in there, basically. You're going through your teenage years playing for top Premier League clubs, and then getting released, and then going to other clubs and then getting released. I think the mindset of young players now, you always believe you're going to play in the Premier League when you're at these clubs, but really, that 0.01% only ever make it. And it's tough to take at the time, a few emotional times, but some really good times as well. I had a great education in the game, being taught by some serious legends at Aston Villa and Birmingham City.
Yeah.
And that's probably been a big part of my development.
Yeah, and of course you were at quite a few academies, including Birmingham, Kidderminster and Scunthorpe. So as a youngster, what's it like switching between academies? Did you ever find it hard to settle in?
I don't think so, no. Everyone's in the same position. The biggest thing for me was leaving Birmingham at 16 and living in digs to go up to Scunthorpe. So moving home, I'm a family like myself, so moving home at 16, just coming out of school and living away with 3 years, that was hard.
Yeah.
And it was very hard in the first year, you get homesick, and when you don't have good games, you want to see your mates and your family after, but then you're going back to your digs. It was tough, had some tough times. But again, that definitely helped me in my mindset in the career in front of me.
So did you moved out at 16 years old?
I moved home at 16 to live in digs, yeah.
Oh, wow. And then obviously from there onwards you sort of came through the Scunthorpe Academy, but then chose to make the move to Kidderminster. With Kidderminster at the time being a National League club, and obviously you're dropping down from a League 1 or League 2 club, whatever division Scunthorpe were in at that point. So what would you recommend to youngsters nowadays to maybe drop down into non-league, say it doesn't work out in an academy, just to try and refine their career?
Definitely. I wouldn't say I dropped down intentionally. It was I got released at 19, and it was either I'll either work at my mate's pub as a bartender, or I'll take this trial at Kidderminster in the National League. I took the trial and it was successful, and I never looked back since. You'll get these chances and you've got to put yourself out there. My first contract was £100 a week at 19. I don't even think it was minimum wage at the time, but you just got to take it. And some lads will get offered these and laugh at them and look for the next big payday, but other lads like myself at then was just like, right, I'll knuckle down and try and get a few games and see where we go.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it all.
How did the move to Kidderminster come about as well? Was it from knowing other, because obviously you've been there before in the academy, was it a case of knowing the people at the club already?
A bit of both. It was funny actually. I'm actually from just down the road in Stourbridge, so it's quite local to me, so I was already coming back home anyway. But the captain of Kidderminster at the time was Mark Jackson, who was the captain of Scunthorpe when I was there, and he kind of put a word into the manager and said, look, have a look at this kid. Went there, had a month's trial, and it was successful, got a contract out of it. So yeah, quite just a small world really.
Yeah, and it worked out for the best as well, because obviously you went on to make 147 appearances for Kidderminster. But in that first season then, how much of a step up was it from sort of youth football to professional football?
Big step up. In fact, the first 3 months I never even had a sniff. I wasn't even getting on the bench, so I actually got loaned out to a team called Church, who were about 3 or 4 leagues below the conference at that stage. I had a month there and just built my confidence up. I was as low than a snake's belly at the time. Played 4 games, scored a couple of goals, and then I started playing for the reserve team. And then the manager at the time, Stuart Watkins, he just chucked me in, and I played every game since. The only games I missed in the next 4 years was just drill suspension. So it just shows you that even dropping out the conference period and dropping down the non-league level can be a massive benefit to the person.
Yeah, definitely. And in the next 2 years at Kidderminster, like you mentioned there, you did become a bit of a regular in the squad. But in your third year at Kidderminster, you started getting a lot more goals. You got, I think it was your best goal scoring season that you ever had, but you got 11 goals in that season. What changed in your game? Did you sort of look at yourself and think, I want to become more of a, I want to get more chances in front of goal, I want to improve my shooting perhaps, and from there you went on to score more goals?
Probably comes with confidence as well. You probably know you're a regular. I got given the number 10 shirt, which is always a mindset, mind over matter kind of thing. And I was playing in a more advanced role, really. And like you said, I was attracting attention. I was in the England C fold. So I'd just say it's purely down to confidence and just playing well. I think it was a good period in my career.
Yeah, and like you said about the number 10 shirt there, did you ever have like a certain kit number you always tried to get?
Yeah, 16 was my main number, and if it weren't that, I tried to get 10. But yeah, it was always one of the things that you ask for when you sign your contract, and luckily I got given the 16 more times than that.
Why number 16? Out of curiosity.
I love Roy Keane, who was 16,
right.
And again, kind of like a mindset thing, mate. When your idol's wearing it, you want to wear it. And it's like the wingers when they want to be David Beckham or Ronaldo picking the number 7.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen as much anymore because the squad numbers they go all the way up to 50. But at the time when you had a squad of 20, you were quite lucky to get 16.
Yeah. And also, while at Kidderminster, then you made your appearances, like you mentioned, for England C. How surreal of an experience was that?
It was great because I think that was probably one of the best periods to be an England C player. They had a good budget at the time. You got treated like the full England squad. And, we were going to Finland, Italy away. We went to Barbados on a Caribbean tour for 2 weeks. These things just once in a lifetime stuff. And the players I was playing with, your John Brainfords, your Steve Morrisons, Championship, Premiership players.
Yeah.
And it was great. We had a fantastic squad at the time, and it was a real honour to be part of it.
Yeah, and in 2009 you actually got voted the England C Player of the Year. So how fantastic an achievement was that?
It was good. It was a good year for me, that, because I got sold to Burton Albion in that summer. So I went from non-league to going into the league. Just won England Player of the Year. So I was on a high then. I think I was around 23. I just had a newborn. So things were very rosy at that time.
Yeah, and like you mentioned that as well, you made the move to Burton Albion for an undisclosed fee, and on Wikipedia anyways it says it was thought to be a club record. So did you ever find any pressure on yourself with obviously a transfer fee behind you?
No, because it was only 25 grand and Burton never paid any money,
right.
so it wasn't a great pressure. But I had some really good times at Burton. I was only there for 2 years, but a fantastic club. We're a fantastic chairman, a new manager at the time, Paul Pesky-Salido, who was enthusiastic. But his number 2 was Gary Rowett, who was the Millwall manager now.
Yeah.
I've become really close to Gary over the last 10 years in terms of helping me out in coaching and stuff like that. And he's been a great mentor. But they also train at George's Park, where England train, and we train there full time. So, it was that part of the Midlands where it wasn't too far to get to, and it was a really good part of my career. Yeah,
and you mentioned Gary Rowett there. This is obviously going forward a bit now because we'll get to your managerial sort of time in a bit later. But do you find it's easier as a manager then to know other managers in the game, if that makes sense? If it ever comes to transfers or getting advice or even just maybe having a conversation and say at a football game where you shake hands obviously before a game. Do you ever find it's better to have good relationships with opposition managers?
Oh, 100%. Now listen, not all managers have got to get on through one thing or the other. But there are a lot of managers out there. There's lots of players out there, but there's not a lot of managers out there. So you've got to realise that person in the opposite dugout is going through the same kind of stresses you're going through. Yeah. And I think unless you're in that hot seat, no one else really understands what you're doing. Now there are only 92 Football League managers. There are only 24 National League managers. There are only 22 National North League managers. There's not a lot. There's thousands of footballers. So you've got to appreciate what the opposite manager's doing. Whether you like him or not, you've got to appreciate what they're doing. Yeah,
and we'll sort of drop back to Burton then. Structured that terribly, to be honest. But what was your relationship like with Paul Pesky-Salido? Sorry, I can't pronounce that.
Pesky-Salido, Pesh. Pesh was great. Pesh was great. He signed me for the football club on recommendation. He played me. I think I played 91 games. Not that I know the exact stat, but I think I played 91 games in 2 years. ideal. One thing Burton didn't do at the time, they just didn't pay that bit of money that probably would have kept me at the club. I'm not money driven, but when someone else in the same league is offering you substantially a lot more, that's probably why I left it in there now.
Yeah, I always at that Burton club as well. They had Jacques Magoma. Again, probably mispronounced his name, but he's gone on to have a really good career playing at the likes of, I think, Birmingham, I believe he's at. Obviously playing the Championship. So when you, obviously, I'd imagine he was quite a bit younger then, as you were as well, at Burton. How good is it to have probably like a really fast winger like him on the team? Obviously, you playing centre mid, able to just give it out wide. You know you can trust him to do the job against the fullback. How much of a boost is it for you?
Jacques Magoma was 19 or 20 when he joined Burton. He got released from Spurs, and he was the best player by a country mile in our team. He had his ups and downs, but so many more ups and downs, and I just knew he was going to play Championship. I thought he would have kicked on when he was in the Championship, but it didn't quite work for him. But saying that, he's had some great clubs and great moves. Him and Scott Malone and John Brayford at the time, I always knew they'd be playing a lot higher level, and they've all got to the Championship and Premiership, so fair play to them. But yeah, knowing you've got a player like Magoma on one side and Scott Malone on the other, it's great to have as a midfielder.
Yeah, definitely. Then obviously the move to Cheltenham came around. How did this move sort of happen then?
Very simple, really. My manager at Kidderminster, Mark Yates, moved to Cheltenham, and he signed me from there. So obviously he knew a lot about me, and I signed a good deal for the next 2 years at Cheltenham. Still only 50 miles away from my house, so still relatively local.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that was probably the best club I've been at in terms of results and positional wise, cut runs and a bit of everything really. It was a great period in my career and my life.
Yeah, and you said cut runs as well there. I believe Cheltenham got to play Tottenham Hotspur, which I briefly talked to Keith Lowe about in the past, but how much of a fantastic experience was this for you?
I had some great experience with Cheltenham. Yeah, we played Spurs away in front of a sellout crowd. In the FA Cup third round, we took 5,000 there. Cheltenham fans played Everton at home in the FA Cup third round, scored. We got to the playoff semi-final, lost to Northampton. We got to the playoff final at Wembley, lost to Crewe. So we went to Spain on a mid-season tour kind of a wind down for 5 days. Some great occasions, mate, and I look back at it with really fond memories.
Yeah, and you mentioned the playoffs as well there. I think I'm a Bradford City fan, so I understand how absolutely heart-wrenching it can be when you don't win in them. You mentioned how, unfortunately, Cheltenham did lose in them. So how much of a gutting experience is that, and how much do you just want to bounce back?
It's probably the lowest period I had in the 2012 playoff final. When we lost to Crewe, certain things really, you go from, you're 90 minutes away from being a League One player, which is massive. You're 90 minutes away from probably doubling your wage, which is massive. Your whole career could change on one game, which is stupid to say, because your career will probably get extended 2 or 3 years because you've just been given that and you're just a higher calibre of player. So I understand that it was tough. We bounced back really well the season after, and we got to the playoffs again. Unfortunately, we lost again. But you learn from these things in life, and like I said, there's no regrets.
No, yeah. And then the season after that, unfortunately, things didn't really go well at Cheltenham. You finished 17th in the league, just not really as good as the previous 2 years. What do you think kind of went wrong at the club?
Well, I actually got sold in the Christmas period, so I didn't. I think we were 8th at the time when we left. I'm not saying it was down to me, but I left for York in early January, and then got to the playoffs for York that season. So I don't really. I didn't really follow Cheltenham too much after I left because I moved my whole family up to York, and it was all about York then.
Yeah, it's strange because when I had the conversation with Keith Lowe as well, obviously you now manage him. He was also at Cheltenham at the same time, and they also sold him about the same period, I think, and it kind of just went wrong.
Yeah, 2 weeks before, yeah. 2 weeks before.
Is it just sort of sold the main players and then things just went downhill from there?
I don't think so. I think it's just one of the reasons. A manager's got to make a decision. Lowe wasn't playing at the time, and York come in, so he went to York, and I don't know, I think my time was just up at Cheltenham, really. Listen, I don't know the politics of it all, but I got a good offer from York, and it was time to move on. I think the manager
Yeah.
Went to York and I had 2.5 really good years there. Not so much on the pitch, but the first 6 months we got to the playoffs, I lost again. So I sound like a serial playoff loser, don't I? But then, just living in York, which is a fantastic city. I've still got a house up there. I've still got fantastic friends up there. Still go up there all the time, and that is a massive part of my life and my kids as well. So, yeah, good times.
Yeah, and obviously you moved to York, where unfortunately they did recently move out of Bootham Crescent. What is your favourite experience of that stadium?
We played Fleetwood in the playoff semi-final first leg, which was a sellout, so that was good. Honestly, the place bounces when there's that many people in there. But the following season, I scored the winning goal against Morecambe, which kept us up officially, and that was a great feeling as well. So I've had some great memories. It's gutting that it's going, but the place it's got loads of history, but it's looking tired now. And to be honest, if it don't get knocked down, it'll probably fall down in the next 2 years. So it's probably time to move.
Yeah, and obviously at York as well, you played alongside the likes of Ben Davies, not the Tottenham Hotspur, who went on to Liverpool, and Nick Pope. So when obviously you were at the club, I'm not too sure how much they really contributed, because I imagine they were very young players back then. But could you see the signs that they would one day make it to the Premier League?
It's hard to say when they're young, but I tell you what they were doing at 18 and 19 respectively, is they were both playing and consistently playing well at that age in a League Two promotion pushing team, tough physical league, and they were not only holding their own, they were getting man of the matches. Nick Pope was a different animal at 19, and he's the best keeper I've ever played with. I've played with some good ones, mate, like Jack Butland and everything like that. Nick Pope is by far the best goalkeeper I've played with, and he's still a great friend now. He's just sent my son a shirt, shirt, and he remembers, because me and Keith, we used to look after him when he used to live up in Diggs in York, and we used to cook his tea for him. And he appreciates that, and his parents appreciate that, mate, and we've still got a great relationship. So I just love what's happening there. Ben Davies, quiet kid, but just got on with his job. He's been fantastic at Preston the last 3 or 4 years, and deserves his chance now.
Yeah. Are you saying that Nick Pope deserves number 1 shirt then for when England go to the Euros?
I'm going to be biased and say yes, but I do like Pickford as well. I do like Pickford. He probably suits a bit more the way England play, but listen, Nick Pope's got to play in the Premier League for another 5 years, so I'm sure he'll get his chance. Yeah.
Unfortunately, things after about 3 years, I think you were at York, but it didn't really go to plan. Obviously, in that final season you were there, they finished bottom of the League Two. They had a few different managers, including Russ Wilcox and Jackie McNamara. Things just didn't really go to plan. But how gutting was it to see a club like York with so much history, such a fantastic fan base, drop out of the EFL?
It's terrible, because I saw my career finishing at York, and I was only 29. And I thought, I'm going to be here for 5 years. My family was settled. I love the club. The fans love me. Well, not all of them, but some of them did. Yeah. I had a really good relationship with the chairman, but for one reason or the other, it was just mismanaged that year. And too many players through the door, and it just didn't work, and we deservedly finished bottom.
Yeah.
I was only 30 at the time, I think, 29, 30, and it was too soon for me to come out of the Football League. In my opinion, anyway. Hence why I moved on.
Yeah. Was you released then by the club, or was it just a decision out of mutual consent?
No, I got offered a deal, but like I said about promotions, when you go down, your money goes down, and you've got to look after your family. Like when you get promoted, your money goes up. So, okay, I was one of the reasons we went down, and I hold my hands up for that. But it comes a point when you've got an offer on the table to stay in League Two on more money, then it's a no-brainer, really. Football's very short-sighted, and I hope people understand, and I'm sure they do. Still got some real good relationships and friends up York, and obviously I went back there, didn't I, 2 years later. Yeah.
And obviously you did keep in League Two. You went to Carlisle United, but didn't really turn out for them that much. So what sort of went wrong at Carlisle?
I don't think anything went wrong, mate. I was just in a very good squad who were winning every week. I think the first we were unbeaten in 19 games, and I couldn't even knock on the manager's door and say, play me.
Yeah.
Because he was playing the same team every week, and there were 19 games unbeaten. I think they were top of the league at Christmas, and they went on to finish in the playoffs and lost in the playoffs. But at that time I was 30. I wasn't really willing to sit on the bench at 30 when I could have been playing even National League games.
Yeah.
Hence why I went on loan to Gateshead and obviously moved to Wrexham a couple of
Yeah, how did the move to to Gateshead come round then? Obviously it's a loan deal, so did you have like an agent who sorted this out, or was it just through Carlisle just offering your services out?
You just get put in a circular, are you happy to go on loan? And I went, yes, it depends what club. Gateshead call, it's not a million miles away from York. I managed to live at home and travel to Gateshead, so it was a great little loan actually, a little 3-month loan. It was perfect for me.
Yeah.
Good club, fan base isn't there, but they've got some real good fans of what they have got, but a really good club, full-time outfit, and we had some really good players around us as well.
Yeah, and in that season, I think it was Ricky Miller at Dover who went on to get 40 goals in the National League.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's an absolutely incredible player, especially at that level. But what was it like actually coming up against him? As a midfielder, it's perhaps not too much your job to really defend against him. But did you ever just dread coming up against him because you knew what he was capable of?
You never dread. You actually, you actually look forward to it because you want to stop him, don't you? So that's your motivation. One thing that happened in that Ricky Miller year is whatever he touched went in, and it was just he was flying high with confidence. He was shooting from all angles, and he was just a kid on form. And I think he played us twice and he scored twice. So
yeah, and obviously the move to Wrexham came about. What's your relationship like with Dean Keats then? Because obviously he's still at the club. Am I right in thinking that Dean Keats was the one who brought you in? Because I know Gary Mills was the manager and it switched around.
Yeah, Keatsy brought me in. I went back to Carlisle after my loan at Gateshead, and I think I thought I was going to be extended to the end of the season with Gateshead. I come to a financial agreement with Carlisle, and then Wrexham offered me a contract to the end of the season. Big club Wrexham, always loved playing there, and I thought, right, I could fancy this for the next couple of years, and I had a really good 6 months at Wrexham. Probably my only regret in my career was not renewing my contract at Wrexham for the following couple of years.
Oh well. And obviously York also got relegated again in that season, back-to-back relegations. So disappointing to see them go down.
York, of course, yeah. Because in the back of your mind, you probably always think, I could go back there. So when you do get back there, you want to be playing as high as you possibly can. Yeah. Gutted because I have some good mates, the people who still work there to today, they've seen 2 relegations. It's not good for them. It's not healthy. So, yeah, it was sad. It was sad to see.
Yeah, and then we'll get back to York in a minute, obviously, because after your Wrexham, and obviously you left there, you opted to go back to Gateshead. So, did this move come around through just knowing mutual people, obviously being at the club not too long ago, or was it a case of maybe you just wanting to stay in the National League again?
Well, I had 2 contract offers. I had the Gateshead one, and the Wrexham, obviously, I was on loan at Gateshead. The manager was still the same, Neil Aspin. I had a good time there. Yeah. And then I had the Wrexham contract. Unfortunately, in that time frame, we had a family bereavement issue, and it kind of made my mind up to stay with the family up north. Yeah. So that was the big issue with it, really. Did I regret it? Yes. And I wish I'd stayed at Wrexham, because the following year they had a fantastic season. But I also had a good year at Gateshead, and we got to the trophy semi-final. We finished, I think, mid-table, and I got offered another contract when they finished as well. So it was one of them situations where I regret it now looking back, but I didn't regret it at the time.
Yeah. Why did you, out of interest obviously, but why did you choose not to extend the Gateshead contract once it finished?
Because York come knocking, and I had a decent contract offer from them, and I just thought, right, I'm 33 now. I need to be at home, and I need to be local. Yeah. Because I've travelled the last 5 years. I need to be local now, and I want to start, enjoying football locally, which didn't go to plan.
Yeah. And again, I've structured this terribly because I completely forgot to ask you something. But at Wrexham, obviously, they've recently been taken over by Ryan Reynolds, and Ron McInerney. What are your thoughts towards this? Do you think it should be more of a case where celebrities do try and get involved in football clubs? Or do you think maybe... I don't know how to word this, but do you think it's a good thing for Wrexham, obviously?
Club, I think, for the last how many years, and I think they've always been crying out for an owner. Now, I knew that when I was in the building, and I only had 6 months of education on Wrexham. But knowing players there now, I think they're crying out for it, and it's probably been a breath of fresh air. So I think more celebrities because do they know football enough?
Yeah.
I don't know. They've come in and they've had a, like I said, it's a breath of fresh air for everybody, really. You know, they're putting bonus structure schemes on the website and photos with the caps on. It's great, and it's great publicity. And hopefully, for Wrexham, because they deserve it, because they are a football league club, mate. They are a massive football club, and the potential is absolutely huge. Hopefully, they can get back there someday.
Yeah, and then obviously we completely mess this up here, but you did go back to York. How different is it now, obviously, because when you were with them, they were a League 2 club, but now they're in the National League North, obviously 2 divisions below. How different was it at that club?
Definitely different. The fan base is still the same. The fan base is still getting the same crowds. Big club, mate, a very big club, and they shouldn't be in this league, but I could say that about 6 other clubs. Yeah, I had an indifferent time in that 4 months. The manager that brought me in got sacked after 5 games, and then the manager that come in after that didn't like me.
Wow.
So that's football for you, mate. I took it on the chin and just moved on. So, you know, it's one of the things.
Yeah, did you find also with York being a massive club like you just mentioned, the season didn't really go to plan, but do you find the pressure of a club like York probably shouldn't be in this league, it should be an EFL club perhaps, do you find the pressure was ever a bit much? Like from the supporters?
Yeah, definitely. And I think they still have that now. I think the supporters, and listen, I've got best mates who are York City supporters, and I feel their pain as well. But I think because they believe there should be EFL, anything under that is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And listen, you've only got the same rights as anyone else. They've only got the same rights as Kidderminster Harriers, Spennymoor, Gateshead, Telford to get back. You know, we all want to get there. So doesn't mean it's going to happen this season, next season, or the season after. What they have got, they've got a chairman who backs them. They've got good budget, good fan base, so they have got a better chance than probably most teams. But the fans know that as well, and they expect it.
Yeah, and obviously then you did finally return to Kidderminster Harriers. I'm just intrigued as well, because obviously when moving to Kidderminster you did go on to become interim manager, then eventual manager. Was when you were originally joined, was it a player role? Was it like a player coach?
Player.
Was it just player? Yeah.
Just a player, and then it kind of, the manager got sacked after 3 months. The thing is, when you have a career as long as mine, mate, you tend to stay sacked and promoted and relegated a hell of a lot, you know what I mean? But because it's been that long, I sound like I'm repeating myself all the time, but the manager got sacked after 3 months, and because me and kind of Jimmy O'Connor at the time were the oldest pros, we like took caretaker charge with someone else for the next 2 months. That was difficult. Didn't really see myself in that situation at the time.
No.
And then I got offered the assistant manager role the following summer.
Who was the manager then when you were assistant manager?
John Pemberton.
Ah, yeah. Did he go on to Chesterfield?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I remember, but obviously...
John Pemberton, but again, he got sacked in November. Then Jimmy Shan come in. He had 2 months before he got offered the job at Solihull. And then I took it on temporary charge, got the results I needed, and I got the job full-time. And here we are today, after a pandemic, mate. So
it's worked out pretty well.
It's been one of those surreal years, which I don't think anyone in the football management game can honestly believe what they've seen.
No, definitely.
I follow a lot of managers on social media, I hear what they've got to say, and honestly, it's been crazy, mate. And I'm hoping next year just runs smoothly.
Yeah, and just again, out of curiosity, really, but have you got any coaching badges towards your job?
Yeah, I've got my UEFA A licence. That's something I always wanted to go into football coaching and managing, and I completed my A licence by I was 32. So grateful I did that now. It's a big thing that I don't have to complete going forward. But saying that, it was a great experience for me, and I learned a hell of a lot, and also met some big names as well on the course, which I've kept in touch with ever since.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you make connections out of it as well, then it all works out for the best, really.
Oh, the network is probably the biggest thing that come out of it,
yeah. Well, things right now at Kidderminster, the club currently sit 5th in the table. You've had a very good season, hoping to get the playoffs towards the National League, but unfortunately it has been cut short due to the null and void decision made by the FA and the National League Board and things like that. What are your thoughts towards it? Because am I right in thinking that Kidderminster voted to play on?
Yeah, we did. It's tough because I don't want to ever go against the teams who didn't want to play on, and us as a club have made that perfectly clear. I think each club has their own agenda and where they are financially, where they are politically, where they are in the current league table, and we're just one of them clubs where we thought, let's see what's on the table, and we'll see where we go, and if it's all right for all parties, we'll continue.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you have any thoughts on towards Gloucester City, obviously, because I think they're taking the National League to sort of a law battle or something like that to try and get the season, or to get them promoted anyways. Do you have any thoughts on Gloucester City's whole stance on that? Do you think it's the right thing to do?
What I will say on behalf of the FA, National League and all clubs is that no one wants to be in this situation. No one's asked for this pandemic.
No.
And no one's had one in the last 80 years. So how they can go off experience is basically impossible.
Yeah.
So I do feel for everybody, okay, it could have been done a little bit better. But when everyone's got their own agendas out, can you keep everyone happy? It's impossible to.
Yeah.
I think you've got to come to a common sense grounding at the end of the day. And you've got to agree to disagree on certain things, and I think it's getting to that point now where you've just got to look towards the future rather than the present and the past, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose you've got to make sure that all the clubs in the league can sort of stay intact, and you don't want to risk putting anyone out of business.
Well, exactly. We all want a full season next year, whatever league we're in.
Yeah.
So whether we're in the National North or the National Conference, we all want a full year next year. We don't ever want a repeat of the last two seasons. Because two seasons have been cut short now, and we don't want that again. There is light at the end of the tunnel. The government said there could be fans by the end of the year in the Premier League. That's massive for us. The Euros, they want to hold the Euros. Loads of positive news. So, it does look a lot rosier going in towards July and August this season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You speak a lot as well about next season. Obviously, recently, Ethan Fremantle and Sam Austin confirmed contract extensions with the club. How great news is that for you as a manager?
Yeah, it's fantastic. We want to keep assets at the club. We want to keep better performing players at the club, and there's got to be more contracts, negotiated over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
They've been consistent over the last 18 months and are improving, and they deserve the reward for that. There'll be more rewards coming. But as in football, you've got to make some tough decisions, and we're no different to any other football club.
Yeah, and one man who's had a really good season, I'm not too sure what his contract situation is, whether he's on a non-contract or if he's on a longer contract, but Ashley Hemmings has had a really good year at Kidderminster, obviously. I believe he's currently the club's top scorer. As a manager then, how good is it to have a player in your squad who you know is very capable at this level?
Massive, and that's why we brought him to the football club. I think he scored 12 goals in 14 months since he joined. He's a local boy, and he seems to be enjoying his football for the first time in 5 years. He comes in every day with a smile on his face, and you listen, when an Ashley Hemmings with a smile on his face comes in, you've got a good Ashley Hemmings. And, we just want to build a team around him and a few others going forward. And to improve our squad, because if we have an improved squad on this season, then hopefully we'll be even higher next season.
Yeah, definitely. And the last thing then, that sort of from me, I ask every single one who I have on this podcast this, but what football club do you support?
Wolves.
Is it? Oh wow, I didn't expect that actually. Are you from that area then?
Yes.
Ah, okay, alright.
Black country lad, Dudley born and bred.
Alright, well, I think that's going to bring the end to this week's episode of the Benchwarmers Podcast. This week I'd like to...
Finish on a high, yeah?
Yeah, we'll definitely finish on a high there, yeah. This week I'd like to thank my guest, Russ Penn, for coming on the podcast. Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, mate. All the best.
Cheers, you too. And we'll see you all next week.